Hi friends! Before I even visited Beijing Zoo, I already knew about Menglan. I had watched so many videos about him online before the trip, especially the famous escape incident back in 2021. During public visiting hours, he somehow managed to climb over the enclosure wall in front of everyone using one of the exercise balls as a stepping stone. The whole thing looked less like a panda escaping and more like someone carrying out a carefully planned prison break, which is probably why people online started calling him the third prince of Shizimen. So when I finally got to see him in person for the first time, and what surprised me most was how many people were there just for him. Everyone seemed so excited whenever he moved even a little, which made me even more excited too. He somehow has this really mischievous energy, like he knows he's famous. Watching him climb around the branches, I could completely understand how he became known as a panda escape artist. I kept thinking about all these videos I watched before coming here, and suddenly this panda that only existed on my phone screen was right in front of me. It felt strangely emotional for some reason. Watching him for a while was strangely calming. Pandas so funny because they look both graceful and clumsy at the same time. Every pose looked like a completely different blob, sometimes a circle, sometimes a potato, sometimes just pure chaos. After the trip, I couldn't stop thinking about him, so I decided to turn this visit into a little sketchbook, spread inspired by Menglan and all his chaotic little poses. I think drawing something is sometimes my way of holding onto a memory of a little longer. I started by sketching some of Menglan's most iconic postures first, because honestly he already feels like a little celebrity character to me. One of my favorite poses is when he climbs across the tree branches, looking completely unbothered, and of course I had to draw his famous split pose as well, which still feels unreal every time I see photos of it. I also kept thinking about all the little stories people share about him online. Apparently, he sometimes shares his panda buns with the sparrows, and there are even clips of him talking to crows while they hang around his enclosure looking for snacks and tiny bits of fur. Somehow, those small interactions made him feel less like just a panda and more like an actual personality people feel attached to. There is this calm and gentle energy about him, like he's completely aware he's the third prince of Shizumen and fully accepts the role. While sketching him, I realized pandas are actually perfect for practicing simple shapes. Most of the body is just soft, rounded forms stacked together, circles for the head, circles for the body, little rounded ears. Even when Menglan is doing something ridiculous, the shapes themselves still stay very simple, which honestly makes drawing him feel weirdly relaxing. I always like starting with the simple shapes first because it makes drawing feel much less intimidating. The head is basically one big circle, then another soft shape for the body. Even the black patches around their eyes help simplify the face. Rounded shapes also naturally feel softer and calmer, which really matches panda energy perfectly. I think starting simple also helps me focus more on personality and the postures instead of worrying whether everything looks perfect. I've also been trying to let my sketchbook stay messier lately. I used to want every page to look perfect, but now I think my favorite pages are the ones that feel alive. The ones with mistakes and the weird little paint marks everywhere. It feels more human that way. Once the sketches were finished, I moved on watercolor, which is probably my favorite part of the whole process. I always feel a little nervous before adding paint though, because the sketch still feels safe at this stage. But watercolor kind of forces you to let go of perfection a little bit. Before visiting Beijing Zoo, I had already seen so many little stories online about Menglan and the birds around his enclosure. Apparently, sparrows and crows are always hanging around with him, looking for food, tiny bits of fur, or just following him around. There are even stories about him sharing his panda bombs with them. Somehow, those little interactions made people even more attached to him online. I think that's part of what makes Menglan feel different from just a panda. He has this whole personality. People talk about him online. Mischievous sometimes, but also surprisingly gentle, and the bird clips always feel strangely peaceful to watch. So for the painting, I wanted everything to stay very soft and quiet. I let the watercolor spread naturally in a lot of places because I like how it created this slightly dreamy feeling, almost like a memory. For the second sketch, I chose one of the photos where Menglan was sitting on a branch holding a bamboo, and for some reason this pose just made him look extremely naughty to me, like he was planning something, which honestly fits his reputation pretty well. I think one reason people became obsessed with Menglan online is because he doesn't act the way people expect pandas to act. He always looks overly confident somehow, like he completely understands that everyone is watching him. While painting this one, I kept thinking about his escape story again. Apparently, during the 2021 incident, he used the giant exercise ball inside the enclosure as a stepping stone to climb over the wall, which somehow sounds less like a panda accident and more like a carefully planned operation. The videos online are still kind of unbelievable to watch because it looks so calm the entire time. And then we have probably Menglan's most iconic pose. I think every person who knows him online immediately recognizes this posture. It somehow looks both majestic and completely ridiculous at the same time. I genuinely still don't understand how pandas are physically capable of doing this. For this painting, I used the darker brush strokes and the strong contrast because the pose itself already feels so dramatic. And while painting it, I kept imagining the famous escape story again. This giant fluffy panda casually climbing walls in front of a crowd like some tiny mastermind carrying out a prison break. Apparently, after he escaped into a buffer area, he even tried walking back through the hidden passage afterwards like he was just checking outside for fun, which somehow makes the whole story even funnier. I think part of why Menglan became so popular online is because he feels less like a zoo animal and more like a little character from the movie. Especially after the escape incident, the way he calmly climbed over the wall using the exercise ball like he had rehearsed it before somehow made the internet completely obsessed with him. Apparently, after the incident, the zoo even had to raise the walls higher, but I think people weren't just entertained by the escape itself, they became attached to his personality. He feels mischievous, clever, dramatic, and also strangely gentle at the same time. Before this trip, he already felt familiar to me somehow, and seeing him in real life made the experience even more special. I didn't expect Panda to inspire these many sketchbook pages, but I guess that's what happens when you finally meet an internet celebrity in real life. Anyways, thank you for spending this cozy little art day with me. Let me know which Panda sketch was your favorite. And maybe Menglan deserves another sketchbook page someday, right? If you would like more calm panda sketches and painting moments, stay tuned. I will see you in the next one.